Welcome back to another episode of Jesus Cartel with me, as always, Mr. Clay Russell. Clay, how are you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing great. You know, I saw somebody did like a screenshot the other day of Jesus Cartel, and they said, "Man, I wish that somebody looked at me the way Andrew looks at Clay on Jesus Cartel." And I was just thinking about that. This is the first time I've seen you since Friday,
Yeah.
right? It's like been a whole week. Lots has changed in the world
Yeah.
since I've seen you.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked a lot,
Yeah.
or a little, but I haven't seen you.
Yeah. It's I got some kind of virus. Mentally, I have felt fantastic in my mind. Like, you know how sometimes when you get sick, you're like, it just kind of takes you out.
Yeah,
I've felt like very with it. My body is just not cooperating with the way that my mind feels, which that's the worst type of sickness for me, because time drags that way. Because I'm kind of in isolation, and I thrive around people, and so like when I'm sick, and I'm just completely out of commission, like 3 days go by like that, because I basically just kind of sleep it off, and you don't really even realize what happened. But when you're very mentally aware, but your body is contagious, that's really the only reason I stay away in times like that, is because like I know where I picked it up, and I picked it up really easy and really fast, and so whatever it is contagious. Maddox also got a version of it, and so me and him just kind of piled up for the last few days. I thought that I was beyond it, and then got sick a second time, and it's like it's just kind of annoying more than anything else. But glad to be back around. Definitely feels it's energizing to me to be around people. I know some people feel the opposite. Some people like get exhausted,
drained,
But I like to be around people. It's like, I can't help people if I'm not around people.
There you go.
And so I feel back in my element. But what catch me up on what I missed with Mangum? I know y'all had another game Friday.
We did. We had a game Friday, and it was wild.
Really?
In spots it was a terrible game, and in other spots it was some of the best game that you've seen. And it's just one of those things. Rich would come out and hit us in the mouth.
For real?
Yeah. Man, that doesn't happen to Mangum. Over the years, you don't see that. You see Mangum hitting other people in the mouth, but so far we've got hit in the mouth twice. With Gino, we jumped on them, to begin with, and then they come and just gave it to us. And then with Richwood, it was just right off the bat. And I forget, but I think we found ourselves down like 12-0.
Okay.
And then didn't give up another touchdown until the end. And so at the end, they calmed down and tied it. Like 20-20, 18-18, somewhere up in there. And they tied it, and then we had a chance to win it at the end. We had like 4.5 minutes, drove the length of the field, and as soon as we crossed the 30, I told Billy, I said, "Look, Coach Woodford told me if we get inside the 30 that we would kick a field goal," which is something we hadn't done in many years, but he's confident in our sophomore sensation. And he said, and as soon as we got to the 30, the offense stalled, and it was 4th and 3. And in 4th and 3, we've always gone for it. But he kicked a field goal, and it was a 40-yard field goal, and it went wide left. And so our defense stopped them the next play, and now we're going to overtime. Now, I am a real-life football commentator, but I could not remember the high school rules. So the high school rules is each team gets the ball at the 10. I didn't realize that. It's been a long time. We don't usually go into overtime. And so Richwood went first, and they got 5 yards on the first play. Then they got 2 yards. Then they got 2.5 yards, and they were 4th and goal from the half-yard line. And Remington Davis and Lane Wiggins shot through the penetration on the left side and was able to make a tackle for loss. So then we had the ball, and all we had to do was score. Could have kicked a field goal, whatever. And Colby Casey faked the handoff and ran to the right and got past 3 defenders and scored. And so the team jumps out on the field like they just won a championship, and they're very, very happy. So really the best thing that could have happened for them.
Sure.
They needed some confidence, needed, those things. And so the way they won, I think if they would have blew them out, it wouldn't have helped them at all.
Sure.
But the way they won, I really think it's going to try to help them for this week.
Yeah, and if you're going to have games like that, it's good to come out on the right side of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you learn the lesson without having to suffer the consequence. And,
Yeah, if you go 0-2
yeah,
and do that, then
there's
it's
a
difficult.
there's a major consequence there.
Yeah, I asked
especially in
Wilcher
football when
ahead
you're
of
only
time.
playing.
Right, I asked him ahead of time on the pregame show. Usually I say, hey, besides the win tonight, what would you like to see? And usually he says, we just need to get better. You know, I just want to see us get better, to improve. And when I asked him before this game, hey, besides the win, what would you like to see? He goes, a win.
Yeah.
We just need a win.
Yeah.
Winning cures a lot of things. You
Yeah.
know, it's been a long summer. We've had a lot going on. Had a tough loss to Gina. We just need a win, and that's true. So.
Yeah. Well, good, man. Well, I'm glad that y'all pulled that off.
And then we went to the LSU game the next day and celebrated Elena's birthday, and so got to go down there and watch a good game, LSU in Florida, and so got to do that, and then got to come back and preach Sunday morning, and we had a great time doing that.
Amen.
So we had a busy weekend.
Yeah, the LSU offense still looks terrible. I just wanted to.
But you heard why, right? It's all by design.
Oh,
They designed it that way. They're specifically not doing that on purpose. They're not throwing the ball down the field on purpose. It's all by design. It was designed by a mastermind of collective group of people, and it's there on purpose. And the offensive coordinator is doing exactly what he was asked to do.
Nothing. So, well.
Hey, you said we're having a current event episode. That's
Yeah.
currently what they're saying.
That's pretty terrible. Whatever it is terrible.
Oh, goodness.
I'm not even going to comment on that. Texas is not by design. They're just terrible.
Whatever.
Thank God for defense, but the offense is trash. Hopefully something will swing the other way. But last week's episode, we did an episode titled, Are You Responsible for the Way That People See You? And then about an hour after that, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And what we have seen in the last week is a clear stance, opposing views, but clear stances everyone's taken on how they saw Charlie Kirk. And, I found it interesting. Obviously I don't think the two things are related. I was just saying I found it interesting that, we just finished talking about are you responsible for the way that people see you, and then you see a figure get assassinated for the way that someone saw him. Yeah. And then people taking these polarizing stances, and they are polarized. They're complete opposite stances. He is regarded a martyr on one end, someone who stood for the Constitution and beliefs of Christian people. And then on the other end, he's considered an enemy of state, a bigot, a fascist, and all sorts of other, horrendous, a Nazi, all kinds of, horrendous things to get thrown his way. And man, if you didn't watch the episode for whether or not you're responsible for the way that people see you, and you're finding yourself a little dismayed by all of the opinions, I would suggest you go watch that episode. I think it could help provide some clarity. I don't want to rehash the whole deal. I'm not going to as far as whether or not he's responsible for it, because we already talked about it just ahead of time. But I do want to talk about what has happened. I'm glad that we got a week between then and now. Yeah. Because it was very, very emotional in a lot of ways. So, what kind of take me through, when you found out?
Yeah, I agree 100% about what you're talking about, and I think when people tuned in to our episode, they just assumed that this is what we would talk about.
Yeah.
Because of our belief system, because of who we are and what we stand for. But we had actually filmed it right before, and which was weird because we had been, used to we'd film on Wednesday, and then it was Thursday, and then it'd be back and forth. And now it's been Thursday for a long time, and then all of a sudden it was Wednesday last week. And that was very unusual for us. If it would have been Thursday, it would have been a very emotional filled episode for sure. So I'm glad that we did it on Wednesday because there was a lot of foreknowledge in that episode told about what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad we were able to do that ahead of time because, like you said, it would be a good tool for people to go back and look at and be able to, spend some time analyzing and thinking about that, being able to see that how it happened before it happened. Mm-hmm. And then us being able to do this episode now a week later so that a lot of these things have played out.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we're not still very emotionally strong in our opinions on this. They've probably gotten better and stronger. What I'm saying is I'm glad that we're able to do it a week later to look at exactly what has gone down.
Yeah.
Because when Andrew said that the way, he said the way somebody saw him but we've seen there's a lot of people that see him that way.
Yeah.
That is very difficult for me because it's like we're not looking at the same person.
Correct.
In fact, I had a lady that's a friend of mine that is on the other side that did not know Charlie Kirk at all and since has Googled him, looked and all this, and she has developed an opinion of him that is the total opposite of what he really was.
Yeah.
Based on what we see in the media, based on them taking small clips, based on them taking excerpts, different things like that, and putting it together with their own agenda. And she now has an opinion of him that is not good at all.
Yeah.
She still doesn't think that he should have been assassinated.
Sure.
But at the same time, she has what I think is a very one-sided, non-accurate opinion. But we're talking about somebody that we've watched for a long time that she's never watched, but now she's just seeing what the media says. And so anyhow, I'm just glad that we're able to do this episode, separately after watching all this go down because a lot of things have gone down since the assassination.
Yeah. I think that, there are several things that I had to come to grips with in the last week that I'm going to be honest, I wasn't ready to come to grips with. And I think that that's a lot of what has made this last week so difficult for so many people. First, just kind of how it happened. I had just finished a run, and I was getting washed off afterwards, and I'd pulled up my Facebook, and a former client of ours that had come through here, he had made a post that said, if you're not praying for Charlie Kirk right now, you need to be. And I didn't know what that meant, but for him to say that, I obviously knew something had happened. And so one quick Google search, and everything just kind of became surreal. And so you see that Charlie Kirk was shot, and I think my reaction was that this was probably like a Trump type situation where he got shot, but ultimately he's going to be okay. And then with one accidental swipe of the thumb, I saw a video. And, I don't mean this like any kind of weird way, but I know enough about wounds that when I saw the video, I knew he was not going to live. And I literally told my wife, I said, unless God personally reaches his hand into his neck, he will not live. There is no way. And, it was about an hour later, I think, that they officially, and I know they knew immediately, but they just didn't release the information. And so, now I go from a place where, and this has kind of always been my mindset on our country, and I have defended this many times, and what I have come to learn and need to confess, and I think it's important that we acknowledge things when we're incorrect, and I've been incorrect about something. We are worse than I thought we were.
Yeah.
And I have argued for a long time that we're better than people think, that we're not as divided as it seems. I realized in this last week I'm incorrect.
Yeah.
We are worse. We are worse than I thought we were. And that was really hard for me. It was really hard for me to come to grips with, to see a bunch of people I love and a bunch of people I care about really go after a man who shares the exact same opinions I share. Mm-hmm. That was hard, because you have to, and you hear people talking about it now, but you got to realize, like, I wasn't thinking these things because people said them. I was already thinking them. People put voices to them later. Mm-hmm. But my immediate reaction is these people would be celebrating my death. The only difference between Charlie Kirk and I is he has a much larger platform. Mm-hmm. But he does not think things differently than I do, for the most part.
Right.
There may be some subtle, nuancey differences, but for the most part, he took the same position I would take on everything, and he handled people rather cordially in almost all circumstances, other than the ones where people were not cordial to him. And even still, he handled those with a level of decorum that's impressive. And to see my friends celebrate what would be my death was very, very difficult for me. And especially to know that it was done divisively. And, you know, I haven't been extremely outspoken about it in the media, but I shared a few things, just positive from Charlie, not political statements, but things about heaven, things about Jesus, things about what he believed about Christ. And I've gotten some pushback from some people, and you know, I don't believe in taking to social media to argue. I think that's idiotic. I've invited those people out to eat. That is what I will always do, is invite people down to sit down for a dialogue. But a buddy of mine, and I do mean a buddy, he's a friend, he posted on my feed what I believe to be very sincere. He said, hey, when your algorithm, meaning the things that Facebook chooses to show you, he said, when your algorithm shows you something good about Charlie, will you send it to me? Because all I see is how bad he is. It's all I can see. He said, and I'd really like to have the full context. And it began a conversation. And so he and I, we're working out the details right now, but it's been agreed upon. He is not a practicing Christian. He was a practicing Christian, and 3 or 4 years ago, he walked away from Christianity. He and I are going to sit down and shoot a podcast together, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Jesus Christ together, not to argue, not to try to win, not to try to check, but to sit and have a dialogue and to listen, because that's what Charlie did so well.
Amen.
Was create opportunities for people to have conversations. And I believe that one of the biggest things that I felt was the vacuum effect, that when you lose somebody like that, how do you, I mean, you can't replace it. How do you begin to try to fill the void that was just created? And I think that we all bear the responsibility to step up and try to help fill that void as best we can. And I think that's what a lot of us are feeling. It's like, you know, you didn't expect to lose him. So it kind of, you know, takes a lot of the pressure off you when you got a guy like that doing such a good job, and now he's gone. And how do I help fill in the gaps here? What's my role? How, you know? And so the Lord has put on my heart some things to do, that podcast being one of them. I'm going to try to find more friends of mine, people I consider friends that take different stances of me, and I've got plenty of them, that we can have conversations with, and people can dialogue with, and we're not going to, you know, allow them to be divisive things. We're going to have conversations and let people be a part of that dialogue. And you know, before I continue, because I could probably talk the entire hour on my own. Where are you? Talk to me.
Yeah. So you know, found out through our family group chat. My girls saw it before we did. You know, because of their age, they've listened to a lot more Fitz podcast, know a lot more about what's going on than I do. I would say that, you know, I'm not You mentioned the Donald Trump assassination attempt. I likened it a little bit to us having too many movies and too many things like that. I'm not a real big movie watcher or whatever, but when you see, when I initially hear, hey, Charlie Kirk's been shot, it doesn't bring about devastation in my mind right off the bat, because I think that, hey, he got shot, but he's going to pull through.
Yeah.
And then when you find out that there was, I don't want to say no chance of that, but they wasn't really working on him in the hospital. It was fatal. And so then it starts to, really resonate and hit home,
Yeah.
And so our church group chat immediately starts popping and people are on there and stuff. And, I think I might have said one little thing or something, but that was it. And so really just didn't talk about it, really didn't deal with it. And then you come in the next day, we saw each other for just a minute. And then, but I just really, I don't know, I just didn't talk about it, didn't do anything. And then Saturday, I felt led. We were on the way fixing to go to the LSU game and the next morning be preaching, and I just felt led to address it for my sermon on Sunday. And I was it was Saturday during the LSU game. And then Saturday night when we got home about midnight in the hotel, I wrote out what I wanted to say. And I did something I've never done before. I dedicated that sermon to Charlie Kirk and to his family, to Turning Point USA, because I had written a sermon about overflowing to other people and stuff, and I had written that sermon on Tuesday and Wednesday. We had done the podcast Wednesday morning. Then he was assassinated Wednesday after that, and so but looking at my sermon, it's what I would have wrote.
Yeah.
Later, 3 days later. And so I just thought that it was important to do that. I've never done that before. The importance of that is to let people know that what we've been preaching for all these weeks is exactly what Charlie Kirk was doing. He was letting the fruit of the Lord, the Holy Spirit inside of him, flow out to reach others. He could have just had it for his four and no more. He could have just gotten fat on the word. He could have just been a great guy and wonderful and all that kind of stuff. But his mentality was to overflow to other people and to be able to do those things. And so anyhow, it was just very fitting. And so we did that. Now, since then, I agree that as a nation, we're worse than what we thought that we were. I agree with that. I also have been more troubled out of other people's perception of Charlie and stuff than I thought that I would be. And I've been very appalled at the amount of people that think that his murder was warranted. Mm-hmm. That's difficult. That's very difficult. I actually did see the video when he was shot on accident. I'm not a video guy. I don't have TikTok. I don't have Instagram, nothing like that. Did see it on Facebook. Didn't realize what I was fixing to see. I did see the video of the Texas State student who acted like he got shot in the neck and at a rally for Charlie Kirk and stuff, and was very difficult situation. Did see that video on accident. That was difficult. He is now, been expelled from school and should be. So we see, we are seeing some repercussions of those things, which I've never seen before, in our country. I haven't seen the amount of repercussions that we are seeing from people on the other side. And I do want to talk about one of those in particular, but I do think this is a huge deal for our country. And I do think it is a turning point.
Yeah.
Now I do want to talk about two things that we've seen since then. Do you have anything you want to say before I go?
No,
to that?
I'd like for you to continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
if I take the mic back, I'll probably.
Well, so one thing that we see is that I did, and this is what happened Saturday night. I forgot while we went back to the hotel at around 11 or midnight or whatever. I watched Erica's first video, and so we got to watch that. And so what we've seen is what the devil meant for bad, we've seen turn out for the good. Mm-hmm. Because we've seen Erica and Turning Point USA and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and them, we've seen them take what Charlie Kirk has started and just ramp it up. And we have seen lots of Americans come and rally around that. And the numbers, if I was to quote the numbers, they would be inaccurate because they keep changing. But his wild expectations of how many campuses would be in Turning Point USA and how many people would be, they've way exceeded his highest expectations. So what he expected or wanted to happen in the next several years has happened in a week. Mm-hmm. So many more people have joined these movements and stuff, and I really believe that it's going to keep going.
Yeah.
Seeing our Vice President J.D. Vance sit in his chair on Monday, to do the podcast was amazing. To see Erica stand up as strong as she did, man, I really feel like she may be our first female president of the United States. I mean, she stood up with boldness, and I was very happy about that too. So those things are good that I see. Now, I also did see, because we're a current events segment, I did see, and y'all just remember I'm not a big TV watcher and that kind of stuff, but Jimmy Kimmel, I did see where his show got taken off of the air, for at least a while, based on some comments that he made.
Yeah.
But here's why that's important. Here's why it's important to me. Because Andrew and I have talked about the Great Divide. We've talked about how our country is worse off than what we thought. We've talked about people that, he considers friends. I don't know that I have any that I consider friends that were on the opposing side of this, in a bad way. Not that Charlie Kirk was bad, but that he deserved to be murdered and stuff. It's really difficult. And so we've seen that. We've seen the Texas State, guy, act like he's been shot, mocking Charlie Kirk's death. We've seen, people spitting on stuff, that kind of stuff. But from what I read this morning, the deal with Jimmy Kimmel is that he's trying to portray the guy that murdered Charlie Kirk as a right-wing conservative.
Yeah.
That had a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
Everybody's confirmed it. His parents have confirmed it. Teachers confirmed it. All this kind of stuff have confirmed that he had bought into this left-wing, ideology. But yet Jimmy Kimmel was trying to do it as that wasn't true. And here's why that's important. And this is why he needed to be removed from television. Is because he has a duty as a news person to deliver the truth, not to lie to America.
Yeah.
And America has been lied to for far too long by these news organizations and stuff. So I'm glad they finally did something with it, because we're not talking about his opinion being different. We're talking about he knowingly lied to the American public to swing things a different way, and that's very difficult.
Yeah, a lot of people think that he was reprimanded for joking about it, which obviously would not have been appropriate at this time. Anyways, not that there's ever really an appropriate time for stuff like that, but there is an element of humor that helps you bridge gaps. I get that,
Right.
As things go down the road. But one, this would have been way too early to do that anyways. Two, he wasn't reprimanded for joking. He was reprimanded for what he said that was serious.
Yeah.
And, man, I go back to the great enemy that is social media, where it creates echo chambers of poor belief systems and misunderstanding. And here's what I mean. We have put out, golly, we're over 100 episodes for sure into Jesus Cartel. It's separated into seasons, so I don't have an exact number off the top of my head. I want to say we're like 130 or something like that. If somebody took the time to watch all 130 episodes, they could very, very easily splice together at length videos about you and about me that would paint us very wicked. Sure. Because without context, we have said some things that are wild.
Yep.
Without the context, I mean wild things. That's what has happened to left-leaning people in social media, is that without context, there's been clips that have been shown in isolation that show him as hateful, but have no context.
Right.
And so with the context, you understand that it's a man who has a certain belief, but there's a reason he has this belief. And even though this belief is different than your belief, here's how that belief is actually still for you. And that's what people don't understand. This is what people don't understand about politics. It's what they don't understand about religion, is that when I take a stance on something, it's not just because it feels good for me, and I don't care that it doesn't feel good for you. The reason I take such a strong stance on it is because I believe that at the end, even though you don't understand it right now, that if you would buy into it, that ultimately down the road, this would be the most beneficial thing for you as well. I'm not standing on this because it's best for me. Right. I'm standing on this because I believe that it's also best for you. But as long as you stay stuck in this place, in this false ideology, it's holding you prisoner. But I need you to buy into what I'm buying into and give it some time to work itself out. And what you will see in the end is this is what's best for you as well. And that's what people don't take into consideration, is they just see what position you're taking right then. They see that it stands against their position, and they hate you for it. And it's like, I'm not taking this position because I don't care about you. I'm taking this position because of the exact opposite. I'm taking this position because the children that you don't want to have could change your life, could change the world, could have a massive impact. There are so many good things that could happen from those children being born that you're choosing not to be born. There's so many things that could happen if you would just continue to stick out what God has blessed you with rather than trying to transition into something else that's not real. Like, you're never going to become the thing you're trying to become. No matter how hard you try to become, you're never going to be it. You will always be viewed as something in the middle, something that is not accepted. It's never going to be accepted. So we're not mad at, we're not saying, hey, you know what? I don't care that you feel this way. I don't care that you're suffering. It's actually the exact opposite of the truth. I want you to get the care that you need to embrace who you are and ultimately live out the life that you were created to live out, the way that you were created to live it out. And I believe that if we'll put the hard work in on the front end, that later in life, this will be more rewarding for you and will be more fulfilling for you, rather than take what appears to be the easy way out right now and say, hey, look, you know what? I don't feel like this. I feel like this. Let me just make a huge change because I see the devastation it's going to cause you down the road because I watch people do stuff like this. We've seen so many people make those decisions and regret them.
Yeah, because they're going off of emotions.
Right.
You know, they're not rooted and grounded in the Word. They don't know why we were created. They're still looking for why am I here?
Yeah.
and it's obvious why we're here, because God wanted a relationship with you. And, you know, and it's so much bigger than just you're for and no more. But people operate so much off of emotions, but then you got people that are scared to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're scared to react the way you're talking about.
And then on the other end of it, there are so many policies and things that try to get shoved that don't fix the problem. They just temporarily set back other people to present the appearance of help, but it really doesn't help in the long run. And that's a lot of what Charlie stood against. And that's a lot of the things that been making him be painted as an evil person, because he's against those policies that set other people back to push other groups forward. And it's like, because that's not progress, because you're having to stifle someone else to put someone else in this position. That's not progress. Are we slow moving towards everybody being on a level playing field in life? Sure, it's a slow moving process, but we're way closer than we've ever been, and we just keep crawling towards the correct direction. Charlie's request was, let's stay the course. Let's stay the course. Let's not set everybody else back to try to bolster this group forward, because then 50 years down the line, now we got to make it up to these people who we had to set back for a while. How do we do that? Well, then we got to flip the table back the other way. It just doesn't work. In politics, so many people look at the short term of everything. They want a short term fix everything, but very few people look at the long term. And that's one of the things that Charlie did so well, is he didn't just see what's happening. He saw, what is the 50 years, the 100 years from now result of allowing this to happen? That's why he chose his positions within policies, not based on what's happening today, but based on how it would turn out 50 years from now. And it takes a certain level of boldness and intelligence to be able to stand strong in those positions, because it doesn't make you well liked, because you got to stand against some things right off. And that's something that we do in our family all the time, is make decisions because of what will be, not because of what is right now.
And that's difficult for a lot of people to understand. It's difficult for family members to understand why you're doing these things. I've talked about this before. Ms. Becky and I have done, we did things totally different than what our family would have done, and now we're yielding the great benefits of those things. You referred to, putting in all the work on the front end. We put all the work in on the front end so that we could understand, so that we could enjoy the rest of it. Yep. And it's worked. Yep. It's worked. And now people can look at it and say, well, it worked. Hey, what they did worked. And then, then you got a group of people say, well, yeah, hey, it worked. But then you ask, well, are you going to do the same thing? No, we're not willing to do that, even though we see that it works. And so, had to deal with that too. But then you got all these other people that are, just don't have the foreknowledge, don't have the wisdom to look at it. All they're looking at is what they see right now.
That's right.
This is the way I feel. This is what I want. This is what makes me happy. Yeah. Those kind of things. And running off of those emotions is very difficult.
Yeah,
very difficult.
It reminds me, when everything first happened with COVID, and they were talking about giving out these COVID stipends. I was very against it. And I was in the tax bracket that would have been receiving a COVID stipend. Why would I stand against receiving thousands of dollars? I've got a bunch of kids too, so it's even more. Why would I be against receiving thousands of dollars? Why would I be against it? Because there's a long-term effect. Right. There's something that happens to our economy if this much money gets shoved out with no positive benefit to the economy. And it was all kind of a facade. It wasn't a good thing. I was not for it. And I think that was also pushed by a lot of conservatives, and I was very against it. So it wasn't a right-left thing. Right. It was this is a terrible thing for the economy thing, and it did. It tanked our economy for a bit.
So you're able to look ahead, see the things, and take the stance that the short-term, thought process is going to be against.
Yeah.
And we saw that a lot with Charlie, to where he was a long-term thinker. He was thinking ahead. Sure. I want to go back to something and say, I don't know how long this podcast is going to be today, but I want to say this and make sure I get it in. When you talked about, how our country is worse off than what we thought, and it is by the people, but then we're seeing the movement that Charlie started being multiplied right now too. But let me say this for all you Christians out there and non-Christians, if you're listening. I want to make sure that we all understand this. We are the light of the world. We are what is holding back the darkness. If you take all of the true Christians out right now, it's not going to be a slow fade. it's going to be instant darkness.
Yeah.
Instant.
Yeah.
Those people that you think that, they're pretty good people, they're just not, they're just not in the Lord, they're not Christians or whatever. No, that's not the way it is. It is good versus evil. It is light and dark. And the only thing that's dispelling the darkness at all right now is the light. And when you take the Christians out of here, if we're raptured up today, this isn't going to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It's going to be instantly that it will be dark and chaotic and really, really difficult.
Yeah.
We are what is holding it back.
Yeah.
And the more of the Christians that there are, and I'm not talking about people that walk an aisle, I'm talking about strong Christians. I'm talking about, hey, if you know me, you will obey me. People that are walking by the Spirit every day. The more of that's happening, hey, the longer that we're going to see the darkness, be at bay, at some length there. But as soon as that's gone, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over. Oh, you are the light of the world, and you need to start acting like it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would believe that if all the Christians left, that there would be some version of peace because you've removed one ideology and all that's left is the other ideology. The reality is the Christianity in and of itself is an ideology. It is a belief system. The other is not an ideology or a belief system. It's a million belief systems and ideologies all standing against one.
Yes.
So it's one versus a million.
Right.
So if you take away the one, it doesn't create peace. There's still a million ideologies.
Right.
Someone will win out and take the prominence within that, and now it will be a new one versus a million. It's
and
not
it won't be the good old country boy
No.
that give you the shirt off his back. He's not going to win because that guy right there is weak.
Yeah.
That guy right there is really, really weak because he's had every opportunity to come to the Lord. He hasn't done it. He's taken the thing, well, I'm a nice guy, I love people, whatever. That guy is so weak. So I think that people think that if the Christians were removed, that, other people would step up. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not anything good.
More than likely, just based on statistics, this is purely statistically, more than likely the world would become Islamic almost immediately. Sharia law would be immediately put into place almost everywhere. And if you're not real familiar with Sharia law, let me just tell you that if the left thinks they hate Christianity, they will not do well with Sharia law.
Yep.
It is much more imposing, and so there's not peace when you remove Christ. That's not what happens. It's chaos. So just dealing with all of this, dealing with Charlie's death, and me being an adult male who's never met Charlie Kirk in my life, but is in tears over his passing, thinking about his wife, thinking about his kids, and that was weird to me. And I was like, I didn't know what to think because I thought I was weird. Because I was like, why am I being so moved over this? I thought I was weird. Then I found out it wasn't just me. This was almost every Christian I know feeling this exact same thing, also feeling weird because they thought they were the only ones. And now we kind of figured out it was all of us. Why did that happen? Why? Joe Reasonover and I were talking, and Joe said, a really good quote. He said, because the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. And he said, we lost a brother. We lost a brother. That's why it feels the way that it feels. We didn't lose a stranger. We lost a brother, and we know we lost a brother. Yeah. And he's right. He's right. There are, and there are relatives of mine that had they passed, I would not have been as moved because we're not joined in Christ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's not that truly unifying thing. We just happen to be related. this was a thing.
Yeah.
This was a thing. It moved me. It hurt me. And here's the thing that I want to ask you, and I've been asking people this lately because I think it's a big question. I don't mean necessarily you specifically. I mean you, the viewer, but I guess also you. But I know the answer with you, so I don't really need you to answer. But Charlie died, and good men are now feeling compelled to step in and fill the gap. My question is, if you died, would good men feel compelled to step up and fill the gap? Would you leave a void if you weren't here anymore? I think for so many Christians, there is no void. If I died tomorrow, a lot of people, if they said honestly, if I died tomorrow, there would be no void to fill. I just kind of do my own thing.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
There should be, if you passed away, people should be trying to figure out, okay, how do we keep going everything that this person was doing for the kingdom, everything this person was doing for the Lord? And that's one of the questions that we have had to confront. And for that reason, one of the additional changes was talked about adding an additional podcast we're going to do from time to time. But additionally, Operation Family Freedom is now going to be going to college campuses across the state. Mm-hmm. And we're going to go and we're going to set up a tent and we're going to pray for students. And we're going to spend time with students where they are and just continue to have a campus presence. I can't do what Charlie did. The guy was a genius in terms of understanding policies and understanding the intricacies of everything that goes on with all those things. But there is something I can do with the students, and that is lead the students to the Lord, be a presence of Christ on a campus for a student. And so that's something that we're going to start doing. If you are a college student or you have a college student or know a college student that would be interested in us going to our campus, I can tell you we're already going to be going. But if you'll get me in touch with them, I'd be happy to link up with them and try to get some of that figured out. But that is something we're going to be doing. I've already reached out to pastors in different college towns. I'm reaching out to the BCM leaders of the different college towns, and I know several of them already, trying to get linked up with the rest of them. We're going to be going from campus to campus and setting some dates and praying for people. We'll also be, while we're there, as Operation Family Freedom, we'll be continuing to get people to help us free the slaves and stuff like that too, which has grown significantly over the last week, by the way. It's been awesome. People have been partnering with us. Our website's up and operating, and it's just an opportunity. Like, how do we fill the gap? We lost something on college campuses. But I can help step in that gap.
I did see where Turning Point USA is now going to be at ULM and at Tech, so those are good things. Also at LSU at the ball game this weekend, they did stop and have prayer for him, which was huge at that university there. He was supposed to be coming there in the next couple months. And, Miles Monroe said that if I died tomorrow and my ministry died with me, then I would feel like a failure. And the next day he died, a helicopter crash. And that was what I was looking for because, I know about Charlie Kirk. I know about Turn Point USA. I know about some of those things, but I didn't understand how strong it was. I didn't know the backbone behind it. I didn't know the rest of the board and that kind of stuff. And so I just sat back and kind of watched, what was going on and what was happening. And then, so like I said, Saturday night when I watched Erica's video, I realized, hey, they got a strong foundation. This wasn't just about one man. He built something strong. Yep. And so being able to see where they've gone from here, multiplied, I think it's a big deal. So I think our job, is not necessarily starting something new, but to be able to fan the flames of what's already going and be able to energize them, like you said, to jump into any voids that are there. Andrew posed a good question. If you died today, would people have to step into your spot? I think where I want to be in life is where people say, well, one man couldn't do that. Yeah.
Right.
We would have to have several people to step up and to be able to fill those voids. That's where we want to be. If it was just that you're a husband, one man can jump in and take care of that or whatever. Yep. If it's just being a daddy, whatever.
Yeah. But there was literally Old Testament systems for that exactly.
Yeah.
created to be solved by a singular person.
That's right.
We're not insulting you, is what
No,
we're saying.
no, that's
There
right,
was
that's
literally
right.
a kinsman redeemer
Yep.
that would come and step into that gap and fulfill the gap you're leaving.
And take that spot,
Yeah.
and that's what we're talking about. I want my legacy to be to where hey, one man couldn't do those things. That there would have to be several people to step up. Why? Not because of how great I am, but because of how great the work that God has got us doing is that multiple people would have to step up, which goes back to Andrew's point at the beginning of this episode, not to hurt them, but to help them. Yeah. It's all about helping people, and I do want to make that point, and just real simple. He was talking about, Charlie and different ones, trying to help people, but they're so short-minded that they small-minded, they can't understand it, because they're looking at short-term. But just like, for instance, I taught a job readiness class yesterday, all right, and the topic was time management. Now, I am very good at time management. It's something that I enjoy. I pride myself on. I'm not just, greatly, I'm not so rigid with it, but at the same time, I get a lot more done than most people. Now, so me understanding time management greatly benefits me, my family, and those around me. But here I am teaching time management to another group yesterday as passionately as you can teach anything, and it's not because I want to get better at time management. It's because I want them to be better at time management. I'm already really good at it. It's already benefiting me. It's already spilling over from me to my family. The reason why I'm sharing it with other people is so that they can be better at it too. Them being better at it doesn't benefit me in any way, but it's what God's called me to do. That's the same thing Charlie was doing. He already had it figured out for himself and those around him and everything. He was trying to help other people, and then he's murdered for it.
Yep. Yep. And just to, cause I don't want to jump off wildly political or anything like that, but just for some clear understanding, you got an immigration issue within our country, and we see that most conservative people would really like to not close the borders completely, but make it a strenuous process to become a citizen, to be a part of our country. Why is that? Because when you have people coming from a failing nation, which is the reason they're fleeing the nation, when you have people coming from a failing nation and you just drop the gates and you just let them come in like a flood, they become the majority. So now you have the values of people from a failing nation who are now the majority of your nation. They're going to bring with them those values and create a failing nation for yourself, in addition to the fact that because they won't be able to immediately plug into the job force because life just doesn't work that way, they will more than likely have to be supported by the government to even survive for quite some time, which kills the economy and makes future support impossible, which is a secondary issue. It's like, well, what about government support? Conservatives tend to be against increased government support. Well, the reason being is because it does have a long-term effect on the economy. We're already trillions of dollars in debt. It's not something you can just continue to print money and that's going to be okay forever. The reason they're against increased government support is because eventually it's going to bankrupt the nation, and then there will be zero government support, and the people on government support will all die. Let me make that very clear. They will all die if they can't support themselves. And so the only people who will live are people who can support themselves. So rather than increasing government support, they're trying to create an atmosphere where people who are on government support can work themselves out of that place. In the short term, it seems hateful. In the long term, it's helpful. They want to keep them alive. Yep. Same with the transgender situation. Like, in the short term, it seems hateful. You feel like you'd be happier doing this, and they're saying no. That in the short term. But in the long term, we've not seen that be beneficial for people. Right. And so what we're trying to say is, hey, let's get in the trenches together on this. Let's get in the trenches together. I'll get in there with you. But let's treat the heart of what you're dealing with so that you don't have to go through all of these things, because you're giving up way more than you realize you're giving up, because your natural biology does not match up with what you're transitioning into. So you're losing a lot here. right? You're never going to become the thing that you want to become, no matter how bad you try, no matter how bad you want to, no matter how much you pretend. You're never going to be there. We don't want you to lose what God gave you within your natural biology. Let's get in the trenches together through this and treat this long term. All of these things, it's all because of what we see will happen long term. And people are frustrated by that, and they're like, well, you think that you know better than we do. It's like, it's not about knowing better. It's the same with, it's just maturity is all it is. It's not intelligence, it's maturity. I have suffered through enough in the short term to see what that suffering will build for you in the long term. People who haven't suffered a lot in the short term to get to a long-term result don't really have a firm understanding of that. My children are a great example. There are a lot of times I don't allow my children to do things in the short term. I'll take something from my children in the short term. They don't like it when it's happening, but they appreciate it later because they can't see what I see. It's not because I'm smarter. It's because I'm more mature. It's because I've been through some different things. And I'm trying to help them. And to help them, sometimes I have to shut down that immediate, this is what would make me happy right now request. And that's a lot of what being a conservative is. It's taking a mature stance that is going to get you some major pushback, but you know going into it, this is going to get you major pushback. And we just kind of buckle up for it because somebody's got to pay that price. Somebody's got to. Otherwise, then we live in a society that will collapse within a very short period of time. There's a reason that democracies haven't historically lasted in the world, because once a vote can be purchased, then it shifts away from a democracy. And we are not a pure democracy in the U.S. We're a democratic republic, so it's got a couple of fail-safes in place that have protected us a little. But we're headed a negative direction, and we're trying to pull it back from getting there. But it's a fickle line, and it's very, very flimsy. It's very dangerous, and it can be crossed over. And once it's crossed over, you can't get it back without force. No one wants to go there.
Right.
Nobody wants to go there. As the ones with the guns who aren't using them, we don't want to go there.
Right.
I was just talking about it. I have a gun on me at almost all times. 99% of the time, there is a gun on my person. I don't ever want to use it. I hope I never have to. But it's there. It's there. And that's not a threat. I'm just saying it's there because it has to be there. There's got to be fail-safes in place. And that's what the Second Amendment is about. It wasn't about, oh, we have these guns that we have the guns in case you ever have to use them. God forbid you ever have to. We don't want to. God forbid you ever have to. But once it's gone, force is the only thing that can take it back. It's to overthrow a tyrannical government. That's what it's for. For a government that says, you know what, we're tired of this. We're doing things this way from now on. That's what the force is for. That's what the guns are for. That's the reason no one will give them up, despite all the terrible things that are happening. Nobody, after Charlie Kirk was shot, everybody loved Charlie. Nobody's saying, you know what, we should give the guns away. Because it wasn't about that. It's about being able to overthrow the government should that come time. And the minute that you disarm yourself, you give away any ability to take the country back should you need to. And there's just got to be some understanding there. And the ignorance and a lot of the things, the desecration. At UNC Wilmington, there was a memorial done, and the students at UNC Wilmington immediately desecrated the memorial that was done for him. It's just ridiculous. It's unacceptable. And we got to do better. We got to do better, and I appreciate people like you in times like this who have done better and have raised your family on values. I actually got to talk about your kids. I think it was 2 nights ago. I got to talk about your kids. So my oldest, there's a situation going on in my family right now. It's not awesome. It doesn't represent our values or how we do things, but it is nonetheless going on. And my oldest is smart, and she's, putting some things together, and so we had to talk to her about it, and we had to let her know that this is happening, but it's not the right way, it's not the best way, and we talked about your kids, 2 of the 3 who are adults now and flourishing and just doing excellent, and we said, there is a right way to do it, and it is excellent for the ones who do it that way. And so, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you represent. I know that this episode is probably not a lot of people's favorites. but it had to be done.
Yeah, it had to be done. We had to talk about what's going on right now. I really think people expected us to do it last week. I'm glad it worked out just the way that it did, so that way we could have this episode this way. Just remember, hey, if not you, who?
Yeah.
You know, if you're not the one, who is? I believe that God's got a purpose for your life. He's called you to so much more than what you've been walking in currently, and it's time to step it up.
That's right.